Bonjour et bienvenue chez No French. Hi and welcome to No French. La leçon d'aujourd'hui portera sur le vocabulaire. Today's lesson will be dedicated on how to learn vocabulary. I'm going to introduce you to the method used by my students and that has proven to be extremely useful. Learning vocabulary doesn't only require writing the word once, pronouncing it, and understanding the definition. That simply just doesn't work. You need to practice much more than that. It has been proven that a student needs to use the word in context between 10 and 20 times before being able to actually insert it in a conversation spontaneously. Not to mention the anxiety that can be caused by having blanks in the middle of a conversation and making people wait for us to remember the correct word. So let's get started. My vocabulary learning method is divided into 3 parts. Each exercise is designed to check how well you know these words and pursue until you master them perfectly. The first exercise is a translation test that will indicate whether or not you're capable of giving a synonym in English or your native language. The second exercise is meant to help you succeed in the first through multiple choices. And the third is sentence writing, because you need to know how to use these words in order to have them in mind when speaking. Otherwise, you'll forget them. We need a vocabulary list. It's easier to group words by subject because it helps with memorization. Here, I chose a list of 12 words related to housing that could be extracted from a text, for instance. Notice that I've incorporated the article with the nouns so that you learn gender at the same time as the word. If you want to give it a try now, press pause and try translating. I will be showing the English version later, or you could check the answer key with the PDF in the description. You need to start by translating from French to English, which is always much easier than the other way around. So first from the target language to your language, and then vice versa. Then do the same thing from English to French. It's much more difficult, but just as important. You can also do this on a sheet of paper. Make sure you put one language on each side so that you can fold it in half and do your translation in each language separately without being tempted to look at the definition. This is essential because it's the only way to actually see if you're capable of translating it or not. If you realize that you cannot do the translation both ways for all words, don't worry. That's what the matching exercise is for. So here it is, the exercise that will help you when your mind goes blank in translation. By matching words, it'll be much easier to remember them. So you do almost the same thing, list your words in French on one side of your chart, and on the other side you insert the English version, but notice they are mixed up. Again, feel free to pause and write your answers down. I've purposely used numbers on one side and letters on the other so that you don't have to write down the word. Of course, you'll be able to check them with the answer key. This way, you have options to choose from and don't have to search for them in your memory. You then need to reverse the columns and translate from English to French so as to confirm your knowledge. You'll also need to listen to the words to make sure you know how they're pronounced. You can easily find the audio on Google Translate, but I'm going to read them out loud now to save time. 1. Un agent immobilier. 2. Avoir de la place. 3. Une pièce. 4. Le loyer. 5. Louer. 6. Acquérir un bien immobilier. 7. Déménager. 8. Emménager. 9. Un propriétaire. 10. Un locataire. 11. Un colocataire. 12. Un bail. Once you've succeeded in doing this, then you need to go back to the first exercise. It is absolutely necessary to be able to translate each and every single word both ways. Otherwise, it means you don't really know it. So what now? The next step is sentence writing. Why? Because knowing a word is not only about the spelling, the pronunciation, and the meaning. It's also about usage, which depends on grammar. Is it a verb? Then how do you conjugate it? Is it a noun? What's its gender? Is it an adjective? What's the feminine version? Which collocations is the word used with? So you need to practice inserting these words into a sentence, but not just any sentence, one that will reveal its meaning. So let's read the first example together. Avec l'héritage de ma grand-mère, je voudrais acquérir un bien immobilier pour investir l'argent. With the inheritance from my grandmother, I'd like to acquire property to invest my money. Notice that I've used many words that are similar to English, like héritage and investir, and that the context makes the meaning quite clear. Whereas if I simply say I'd like to acquire property, well, that could just be about anything. Let's try another one. J'espère que le garage est grand et qu'il y aura assez de place pour les deux voitures. I hope the garage is big and that there will be enough room for both cars. So here, this phrasal verb uses place as a noun, and I've conjugated the verb avoir in future tense. I deliberately chose two different ways of using the English word room so as to distinguish them in French. Now let's read the other sentence containing this word. J'ai décidé de déménager de mon petit appartement parce que j'ai besoin d'une autre pièce pour mon bébé à venir. I've decided to move out of my small apartment because I need another room for my upcoming baby. Careful, pièce can also have other meanings, like coin as in pièce de monnaie or play as in pièce de théâtre. As you can see, I've incorporated two vocabulary words in one single sentence. This is another advantage of choosing a themed vocabulary list. You'll find sentences for all other words in the PDF below. These sentences will also be very useful when you're going to review the vocabulary. If you get stuck on a word, you'll be able to read that sentence and the definition should be obvious. If not, you'll probably need to improve it. Do avoid using new vocabulary other than the target vocabulary. If you can't think of sentences, search for some on internet. In any case, once you've written your sentence, do make sure it's correct with a translation tool like Lingui Translator, which allows you to insert a whole text with entire sentences. Once you've completed your sentences, replace the vocabulary words by lines, which turns it into a gap fill exercise. This way, it becomes a test. When reviewing vocabulary, looking up the definition should only be a last resort. But you can add the answer key at the very end of your worksheet just to save time in case you get stuck a couple weeks later. This vocabulary work should be done at least once a week with a new list as well as reviewing an old list. Try and stick to the same theme for some time. This way, not only will you increase your exposure to that specific vocabulary, but you'll also be able to recycle words by using them in your new sentences of a different list. So that's it for today. Hope this method will help you study better. You're all set now to improve your vocabulary. If you liked it, please share, like, and subscribe. If you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to make a comment. Thanks for watching. Merci et au revoir.